Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are diving deep today into a field that almost every single working professional interacts with.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's one that remains, I think, almost universally misunderstood, undervalued even.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. Underestimated, for sure.
We're talking about human resource management.
It's true. I mean, when you hear the acronym HR, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Paperwork, forms.
Exactly. Your mind probably defaults to something transactional. You know, signing benefits paperwork, setting up a new laptop.
Or the worst case, right, sitting in that uncomfortable meeting with someone holding a clipboard.
Yes. We instinctively see it as this necessary evil, maybe a back office administrative function.
Or just the bureaucratic enforcement arm of the organization.
The office police.
We tend to view HR as either the paperwork department or the office police. But that perception, and this is what we're going to get into, is fatally narrow, and it misses the entire point.
It really does.
So what we are challenging you to consider today is that human resource management, or HRM, is actually a foundational, highly complex, and deeply strategic discipline.
Right. It's not just about managing forms. It's about managing the single most volatile and valuable asset an organization has. It's people.
Our mission in this deep dive is to, well, completely overturn that traditional back office assumption.
We're going to explore the comprehensive definition of HRM, and then we're going to systematically unpack the dynamic characteristics that make it, I would argue, the single most challenging area of modern business.
And then, crucially, we want to demonstrate its profound and interwoven significance, how it impacts everything on the organizational, professional, social, and even national levels.
Exactly.
Let's start with the fundamental insight that I think changes everything about how you perceive this field.
Okay.
HRM is built on a specific, powerful framework. It views an organization's manpower, and that's the entire collective pool of knowledge, abilities, skills, talents, aptitudes, as its most vital resource and most crucial asset. It's not just a line item on a budget. It's not a collection of salaries. It is the engine of value creation.
And it's the primary source of competitive advantage. If you accept that premise, and you really have to, that human capability is the ultimate asset.
An asset that appreciates over time, unlike equipment or inventory.
Exactly. It gets better with experience. So if you accept that, then the function responsible for cultivating, protecting, and optimizing that asset must, by definition, be central to the business strategy. It can't be peripheral.
So we need to move beyond thinking of HR as just a cost center.
And recognize it as the strategic heartbeat of the entire enterprise.
Okay, let's unpack this shift from administrator to strategist by locking down a formal definition. Because the structure here really matters. HRM stands for Human Resource Management.
And it is this sophisticated mechanism designed to maximize this vital human asset we're talking about.
The definitive scope of it, as laid out in classic management frameworks like Flippo's, immediately elevates it above just clerical work.
It does. It defines HRM not by a simple list of tasks, but as the comprehensive application of the 4 classical management functions.
Planning, organizing, directing, and controlling.
The big 4.
And I think that connection is so powerful because it solidifies HRM as a pure management discipline. It's on par with financial management or operations management.
That's a great way to think about it. You're applying those 4 core functions. Planning your future talent needs, organizing the required structure for them.
Directing employee performance, and then controlling the outcomes through metrics.
Exactly. But you're applying them specifically across the entire life cycle of every single person who works there.
And that employee life cycle, as you mentioned, is so much more involved than just writing a job description and shaking a hand on the first day.
Oh, miles more. The comprehensive definition outlines 6 core processes that management must apply those 4 functions to. These processes are the engines that keep the human resource system running
smoothly, sustainably, and strategically. Let's deconstruct those 6 because I think they really capture the full scope of the responsibility. So, starting at the very beginning, you have procurement.
And it sounds like buying office supplies, doesn't it?
It does, but it's anything but.
Procurement is this holistic, front-end strategic process. It encompasses so much more than just running a job ad. It's the entire strategic supply chain for talent.
A supply chain for talent. I like that. So it means strategic workforce planning.
Yes. Forecasting the exact types of roles, the skills, even the attitudes the organization will need 5 years from now.
Before the vacancy even exists.
That's the key. Before you're in crisis mode. Then it involves the complex processes of finding the right talent pool, attracting the best candidates, selecting them based on long-term fit, not just short-term need.
And then integrating them through that initial placement.
Right. And if you fail in procurement, the whole organization is just chasing talent reactively. It's a constant fire drill.
Which results in rushed hires, poor fit, and high turnover down the line.
Absolutely. Procurement really sets the stage for organizational stability, or instability if you get it wrong.
Okay, so once they're in the door, we move to the next process, development. And we often simplify this to just training, but that really limits the scope, doesn't it?
It does. Development is the critical process of nurturing potential and ensuring continuous growth. It includes formal technical training, sure, but it's also soft skill development, leadership programs, mentoring.
Career pathing, performance coaching.
All of it.
All of it. The strategic goal of development is to ensure that the employee's contribution capacity is constantly improving. It's an investment.
And if development lags, what happens?
Well, employees stagnate, the organization loses its competitive edge, and that human asset we talked about, it actually depreciates in value relative to the accelerating business environment.
It's an investment in future capacity. You have to keep it growing.
Exactly.
Next up, the most tangible, but I think often the most conflicted process, compensation.
Ah, yes. The paycheck, the benefits, the incentives, the whole reward structure. It's the nerve center of motivation, isn't it?
It is, and it has to be managed strategically on two key fronts at the same time. First, it must be externally competitive.
Meaning you need to offer enough value, salary, benefits, culture, the whole package to attract the best talent away from your competitors.
Right. But second, and this is just as important, it must be internally equitable.
Meaning fair.
Yes. If two people performing comparable work feel they're being paid unfairly relative to each other, morale just collapses. Trust evaporates.
And you get high turnover among your best people.
Inevitably. So compensation isn't just an expense on a spreadsheet. It's a fundamental tool for aligning employee behavior and performance with the company's strategic goals. If you don't manage it proactively and fairly, the entire system just breaks down.
Okay, here's where the human element really complicates things. The next process is integration. What does it actually mean to integrate human resources beyond just, a company pizza party?
Right. Integration is the process of synthesizing the often competing purposes of the individual and the organization.
Okay, so balancing what I want with what the company wants.
Precisely. It's the mechanism that ensures employees feel like they belong, that they are involved, and that their individual efforts contribute meaningfully to the overarching mission.
This is where things like employee participation, managing communication across different departments,
and establishing healthy labor relations, all of that lives here. It's the glue that holds the complex social system of the company together.
So if integration fails, you get friction.
Friction, misalignment, apathy. You might have teams that work really hard, but they're working against each other or in total isolation. They're missing the collective goal.
Integration transforms a group of hired hands into a committed team.
That's a perfect way to phrase it.
The fifth process is maintenance. Now, this sounds very clinical, like changing the oil in a car.
It does, but for human assets, it's about far more than just safety checklists.
What does it cover?
Maintenance refers to the conservation and improvement of the physical and mental health of your employees. It means ensuring safe working conditions, implementing robust well-being and mental health programs.
And handling grievances transparently and fairly.
Crucially, if you view human resources as an asset, maintenance is the absolute critical process of protecting that asset from depreciation, burnout, injury, or even litigation.
And a failure in maintenance leads to massive costs, I imagine.
Huge costs. Through absenteeism, high insurance premiums, regulatory fines, and just a catastrophic loss of productivity because your workforce is depleted. It's risk management for your human capital.
And finally, the sixth process is reproduction of human resources. That term immediately implies strategic sustainability, a legacy.
It does. Reproduction ensures the organization's workforce is always renewing itself, but in a planned, controlled way, not a chaotic way.
So this would involve robust succession planning.
Yes, identifying and preparing future leaders for critical roles. It's about developing talent pipelines that can replace retirees or natural turnover.
And crucially, managing the flow of human capital in a way that minimizes the loss of that critical institutional knowledge, the stuff that's not written down anywhere.
Exactly. When a 30-year veteran retires, you can't let all that wisdom walk out the door. Reproduction ensures that the organization can navigate demographic shifts, retirements, or rapid expansion without losing its core competence or being caught flat-footed by future skill demands.
So it secures organizational competence for decades, not just for the next quarter.
That's the goal.
So we have the 4 management functions: planning, organizing, directing, controlling, applied systematically across those 6 core processes. But the definition really reaches its strategic peak in its statement of the ultimate objective.
The tripartite goal.
The tripartite goal.
That's right. The goal isn't a simple single metric like maximize shareholder profit. It's way more complex. It requires HRM to simultaneously ensure that objectives are accomplished across 3 simultaneous and often inherently competing levels.
Individual, organizational, and societal.
All at once.
Let's dive into that tension there. Organizational objectives, profitability, market share, operational efficiency. Those are the most obvious ones.
Right, that's what we always talk about. But what about the individual objectives?
These are the employee's personal goals, right? Receiving fair wages, achieving job satisfaction.
Securing personal growth, career advancement, maintaining security, all of that. Effective HRM has to align the work required for the organization with the opportunities required for the individual.
Can you give an example of where that fails?
Sure. If the organization achieves maximum profit by forcing employees to work unsustainable hours without commensurate reward, the individual objective is completely neglected.
And that leads to rapid attrition, burnout.
And the failure of the organizational objective in the long term anyway. So HRM has to find that optimal overlap, that sweet spot.
And then there's the massive scope of the societal objectives. This connects day-to-day managerial practices directly to the public good and the external environment.
Yes, societal objectives reflect the organization's responsibility to its community and the nation. This includes absolute adherence to labor laws, promoting ethical and safe employment practices, contributing positively to community health standards.
And, critically, enhancing the dignity of labor.
That's a big one. When management cuts costs by compromising safety, which is a purely organizational objective, it immediately violates the societal objective and ultimately the law.
So the best HRM practices recognize that organizational success is only sustainable if the community it operates within is also thriving.
They're inseparable. The ultimate aim is to bring all of these goals into harmony, enabling each person to make their best contribution to success, both as an individual and as a working group member.
And that aim, seeking willing cooperation rather than coerced compliance. That's why HRM is such a source of strength. It builds commitment.
Coercion gets you compliance. Cooperation gets you excellence.
And just to clarify a common distinction here, modern management thinkers are pretty much unified in the view that the staffing function, that initial recruitment, selection, and placement, is absolutely considered a central and integrated part of this broader concept of human resources.
Oh, absolutely. It's all part of that planning and procurement process we just outlined. The strategic planning of your workforce needs must be inseparable from the tactical execution of filling those roles. It's one continuous integrated strategic function.
Okay, so that formal definition gives us the blueprint. But if it's so clearly defined, why is HRM so often cited as the most difficult and dynamic discipline in business?
Right. Why do smart organizations still fail at managing people?
Exactly. The sources identify 13 key characteristics that really define the field's challenge. We can group them into 4 logical themes.
Let's start with the first theme, which is just the sheer scope and reach of where HRM exists.
The first characteristic here is its pervasive nature.
HRM is inherent in all organizations, regardless of their size, their mission, or their industry. And it exists at all levels within those organizations.
So you might think of it applying to, say, a Fortune 500 tech firm. But it is equally vital and necessary in government bodies, educational institutions, the armed forces.
Nonprofits, even small family-owned businesses. If people are working together for a common purpose, the functions of planning, organizing, directing, and controlling that human element have to be present. It's inescapable.
And furthermore, its reach is total. It permeates all functional areas within the business.
It has to. Production planning needs HR input on staffing levels. Marketing needs HR input on training for customer service.
Finance needs HR input on compensation budgets.
And R&D needs HR expertise on how to retain their top talent. No department is an island operating outside the principles of human resource management.
Which naturally leads to the second characteristic. It's a comprehensive function. HRM manages all people at work, full stop.
It covers everyone from the most junior worker and the frontline supervisor right up to the C-suite and the top managers themselves.
And this comprehensive focus is what makes it so strategic, because the impact is organizational-wide.
It is. It's not just about managing the hourly workforce. It's about transforming the entire organizational environment and the work culture. The goal is to strategically trigger employee contribution at every level to overall productivity, performance, and profitability.
And if the culture is corrosive at the top,
that toxic behavior metastasizes downwards. It renders all the other HR efforts, all the great programs you have, totally useless. HRM is responsible for the health of that entire human ecosystem.
now let's hit the most confusing distinction for many people. It's the difference between a staff function and a line responsibility.
Yes, this is essential to understanding why so many managers feel like they're doing HR's job.
So what's the difference?
Okay, so first, the HR department itself serves a staff function. They are fundamentally advisory. The HR manager, as a specialist, doesn't manufacture the goods or sell the products directly.
Their contribution is strategic advice and assistance. They design the compensation policy. They create the performance appraisal system.
They handle the complex legal compliance issues. They are the internal consultants and experts who set the rules and frameworks.
It's like the analogy we used earlier. The HR manager is the director of a movie, judged ultimately by the success of the total film, not just their own script writing.
Precisely. They support the core revenue-generating operations. However, and here's the vital nuance, HRM is emphatically not something that can be turned over solely to the HR department.
The management of people remains the responsibility of every manager.
That is the line responsibility.
So if I'm the manager of the software development team, and two of my junior developers are in a prolonged conflict, I can't just tell them, go talk to HR, it's not my problem.
Absolutely not. The HR department provides the expertise, the policy framework, the mediation assistance if you need it, but the authority to take daily operational decisions about people assigning work, coaching performance, providing immediate feedback, addressing minor disputes, that lies squarely with you, the operating executive, the line manager.
So when the HR department is created, other managers are not relieved of this foundational human management responsibility.
Not at all. The line manager executes the day-to-day HRM. The HR specialist advises on best practice and ensures compliance. The overall success or failure of a team rests primarily on the line manager's competence in managing their people.
Okay, let's shift our focus to the subject itself, the human element, which brings us to our next theme. HRM is inherently people-oriented. It focuses on employees both as individuals and as groups.
And the core job of being people-oriented is achieving the best fit. This means constantly seeking the optimal alignment between the individual's unique personality, the specific demands of the job, the dynamics of their immediate work group.
Culture of the organization, and the shifting external environment. So many moving parts.
It's a constant balancing act, and this focus is why the function touches recruitment, training, motivation, development, performance appraisal, and the overall well-being of those people.
It's a 360-degree view of the worker.
Exactly. And while the group dynamics, like teamwork and labor relations, are vital, HRM must also be individual-oriented.
Every single employee has to be treated as a unique individual.
Yes, because motivation, development, and personal satisfaction are all highly subjective. A one-size-fits-all approach to recognition or career progression will inevitably fail to engage a diverse workforce.
So effective management provides tailored services and programs designed to facilitate that specific employee's personal satisfaction and growth.
Right. What motivates a senior engineer is probably very different from what motivates a new sales associate.
And this individualized, emotion-laden focus leads directly to what we can call the challenging nature of HRM. We're not dealing with assembly lines or predictable inputs here.
Not at all. We are dealing with human consciousness.
Managing people is difficult because people possess sentiments, emotions, subjective values, and highly variable levels of motivation.
You can't treat them like machines that can be programmed, optimized, or fixed with a standardized procedure. You can troubleshoot a computer server with a clear protocol, but you cannot troubleshoot a grieving employee or a cynical team member using the same rigid methodology.
That's the critical difference. If you treat human motivation like an engineering problem, you are guaranteed to fail.
It requires a level of tactical handling, negotiation skill, and emotional intelligence that just transcends technical expertise.
So HRM requires administering a complex social system, not just a technical or an economic one.
Absolutely. A social system is dynamic, it's unpredictable, it's influenced by external events, a bad news cycle, a global pandemic, and it's influenced by internal politics.
You can have a technically perfect organizational structure, a beautiful org chart, but if the social system, the culture, the trust levels, the inter-team relationships is unhealthy.
The whole enterprise becomes brittle. It becomes inefficient and prone to internal collapse. Maintaining the health and resilience of that complex social system is HR's existential challenge.
Let's shift now to the dimension of time. Since HRM is about managing this dynamic social system, it can never be a static task you just check off a list, which is why our next theme starts with the characteristic that it is continuous.
It is a never-ending, ongoing exercise. It's not a periodic one-shot function.
You absolutely cannot practice HRM intermittently.
Right.
You can't just decide to turn on good communication for a month or switch off grievance handling when you're busy.
Right. It demands constant vigilance and alertness to human relations in everyday operations. The moment management becomes complacent about culture or communication or fairness, the system begins to decay.
And it often decays silently, right? Until a catastrophic human resource failure occurs.
Like mass turnover or a public scandal, it requires persistent daily awareness from every single line manager.
And this continuous nature directly feeds into the fact that HRM must be fundamentally future-oriented.
Yeah.
You are never just managing the headcount you have today.
The primary goal of HRM is not solving yesterday's problems. It's preparing the workforce for tomorrow's challenges. It focuses heavily on providing competent and well-motivated employees to help the organization achieve its objectives in the future.
So this involves robust, long-term forecasting, succession planning that looks 10 years out.
And proactive development of skills that don't even exist yet, but will be necessary for the organization's strategic roadmap.
And crucially, that future success hinges on seeking the willing cooperation of people. You can't compel commitment for a future goal. You have to earn it.
You have to earn it through trust and development, which is why HRM must also be development-oriented. It is concerned with actively investing in and developing the maximum potential of employees.
This is the ultimate mutually beneficial activity, isn't it?
It really is.
By investing in development, the employee gains maximum satisfaction and personal growth from their work, which fulfills their individual objectives.
And at the same time, this enhanced capability ensures they give their absolute best efforts to the organization, fulfilling the organizational objectives. It's a self-reinforcing virtuous cycle,
where investment in people is directly rewarded with enhanced organizational capacity.
Exactly. Finally, in this theme, HRM must be action-oriented. This contrasts sharply with that administrative stereotype we started with.
Right, it's not about paperwork.
It stresses getting things done and solving problems, focusing on practical solutions rather than merely generating theoretical reports.
So it prioritizes solving human resource problems immediately and effectively to achieve both organizational objectives and the employee's personal goals.
The approach has to be rational, centered on wisdom and high judgment, and highly tactical in dealing with daily human issues, whether it's a sudden staffing shortage or a morale crisis, rather than just waiting for the next scheduled review cycle to talk about it.
Okay, let's look at our final theme, the knowledge base that supports this complex field. The first dimension here is that HRM is fundamentally interdisciplinary. It's not a closed loop.
No, it's a cross-pollination of knowledge drawn from various academic disciplines. To manage complex human problems effectively, a modern HR professional or line manager has to pull knowledge from several core fields.
Like what?
Well, they depend upon sociology to understand group dynamics, conflict, and organizational structures. They need anthropology to appreciate cultural differences and norms within the workplace.
Psychology, obviously, to understand individual motivation, perception, and behavior.
And economics to structure compensation models and forecast workforce demographics.
That reliance on such diverse and often contradictory fields, the hard numbers of economics meeting the subjective theories of psychology, that's exactly what makes HRM a highly specialized job in the modern era.
It is. You can't be effective just by knowing labor law. You have to understand the human psyche and the social ecosystem all at the same time.
This specialization is also why HRM is correctly categorized as both an art as well as science.
The science part is the organized body of knowledge. It's the principles, the metrics, the theories, the techniques that have been formalized through decades of research.
Things like standardized performance metrics, statistical analysis of turnover, or formalized organizational design structures.
Right. But the art component is the creative application of that theoretical knowledge to messy, high-stakes, real-world human problems.
The science tells you that high performers need tailored recognition.
But the art is finding the exact right way to motivate a senior engineer versus a frontline salesperson.
Knowing the steps for mediating conflict is science. Executing the negotiation with tact and empathy under pressure is the art.
Exactly. Handling people, managing their hopes, their fears, their conflicts, and motivating diverse groups, this is considered one of the most creative and difficult arts in modern management. It requires high judgment, not just high data literacy.
And finally, putting all this into perspective, HRM is a young discipline.
Which is surprising to some people. Compared to established functions like finance or manufacturing, which are centuries old, HRM is of comparatively recent origin.
It really only began to formalize and professionalize as a specialized area in the latter half of the 19th century.
And it expanded dramatically throughout the 20th century, driven by industrial scale, mass employment, and of course, labor movements demanding better conditions.
So the rigorous, science-based, socially conscious, interdisciplinary field we're describing is still, in many ways, in its evolutionary adolescence.
That's a great way to put it. And it provides crucial context for why the role of HR professionals and line managers is constantly shifting today. The discipline itself is still defining its ultimate boundaries and best practices in the face of rapid technological and social change.
Okay, we've established the expansive definition and the daunting complexity of managing a social system that demands both art and science.
So now we have to turn to the ultimate question. So what? Why should you or any organization dedicate serious strategic attention and resources to getting this right?
The impact of effective HRM ripples out across 4 critical and increasingly large spheres. Let's start internally. For a company to achieve sustainable growth and efficiency, effective HRM is the foundational bedrock. It's not a minor support pillar.
It begins with solving the most immediate strategic challenge: talent acquisition and retention. HRM is crucial for attracting and retaining the right required talent.
This is achieved through effective policies concerning workforce planning, targeted recruitment, rigorous selection, strategic placement,
And, critically, designing attractive, fair compensation and promotion structures that incentivize longevity. If HRM fails here, the company just operates with chronic skill gaps and incredibly high replacement costs.
Next is skill development, which goes beyond simple technical training. It involves developing not just competency, but the right attitudes among employees.
Attitudes are non-negotiable for cultural success. And this is achieved through systematic training, development programs, and consistent, fair performance appraisal feedback.
An employee with moderate skills and an excellent attitude, if they're developed and motivated by good HRM, will almost always outperform a highly skilled employee with a poor attitude who is just allowed to coast.
Every time. A truly effective HR function also secures the willing cooperation of employees. And that willingness is the difference between a compliant workforce and a committed one.
How is that cooperation built?
Through sophisticated motivation strategies, establishing employee participation frameworks, and, crucially, transparent and efficient grievance handling mechanisms.
When employees trust the system and feel that conflicts will be resolved fairly, they commit their full discretionary effort.
Exactly. This ensures the available human resources are utilized effectively, maximizing organizational output rather than wasting expensive talent on low-value tasks.
And finally, looking ahead, effective HRM guarantees future stability.
By building robust internal pipelines and succession plans, remember that reproduction process. The enterprise will always have a team of competent, dedicated employees ready for future challenges, market shocks, or leadership transitions.
That future stability is a massive, often unquantified competitive advantage.
It is. It allows the enterprise to focus on innovation instead of constant crisis management.
Okay, moving beyond the bottom line, HRM drastically affects the daily experience of work. Effective HRM dramatically improves the overall quality of work life for every individual.
Improving quality of work life means facilitating seamless teamwork by providing a genuinely healthy working environment.
And this is not just confined to physical safety standards, is it?
No, not at all. It critically includes psychological safety, ensuring people feel comfortable taking risks, voicing constructive dissent, and collaborating without fear of retribution or humiliation.
HRM also provides maximum opportunities for the personal development of every employee. This links directly back to those individual objectives we identified earlier.
It does. When employees see a transparent, funded pathway for growth and advancement, their job satisfaction just increases exponentially.
Which leads to retention and sustained high performance.
It is also responsible for maintaining healthy relationships among individual employees and between different work groups. Conflict is inevitable in any human system.
It's going to happen.
It is. HRM provides the structures, the policies, and the skilled mediators necessary to manage, mediate, and resolve those conflicts productively.
It prevents friction from becoming destructive internal warfare that divides teams and drains organizational energy.
And there's the crucial function of work allocation. Effective HRM ensures proper matching of skills, roles, and workloads.
This is essential for preventing both burnout from relentless overload.
And boredom from under-challenging or repetitive work. It's about optimizing every individual's contribution capacity over the long term.
Now we start to see the ripple effect, the consequence of good management practices hitting the broader community and shaping societal norms. Sound HRM practices profoundly enhance the dignity of labor in society.
That is such a powerful concept. When a high-profile organization treats its workers fairly, compensates them appropriately, invests in their capability, and prioritizes their safety, it doesn't just benefit that one company.
It elevates the professional status of work itself within the community. It sets a higher standard that the entire labor market eventually has to follow.
Furthermore, HRM provides suitable employment that offers deep social and psychological satisfaction to people. For many, our employment is a core source of our identity, our routine, our social connection.
So when HRM successfully connects people to meaningful, stable work, it provides a stability and a social integration that extends far beyond the mere paycheck.
A huge, often invisible function is balancing the market. HRM plays a critical role in maintaining the crucial equilibrium between the jobs available and the job seekers.
In terms of numbers, qualifications, needs, and aptitudes.
It's a complex macroeconomic balancing act. If a nation produces a surplus of highly qualified graduates in certain fields, but the economy only generates low-skill jobs, you have intellectual stagnation and brain drain.
And conversely, if there are high-tech jobs, but the educational system hasn't been guided to produce qualified candidates, economic development is just capped.
Exactly. HRM, through its national-level forecasting and coordination with educational bodies, influences the training needs of the market to bring supply and demand into better alignment. It maximizes human potential for the entire society.
And finally, there is the powerful social act of conservation of health.
Effective HRM helps eliminate the wasteful expenditure of human resources through the conservation of physical and mental health.
Wasting human resources through preventable illness, high-stress environments, or lax safety standards represents an enormous, measurable societal cost.
In healthcare spending, lost productivity and damaged families. By prioritizing comprehensive well-being and proactive safety, HRM ensures that the productive capacity and longevity of the total working population are preserved and maximized for the benefit of the whole nation.
And so we've arrived at the highest level of significance. Effective human resource management, practiced broadly and strategically across a nation, plays an absolutely vital role in the development of an entire nation.
Think about the prerequisites for national development. Massive infrastructure projects, industrial scaling, widespread technological innovation, stable governance.
All of it.
The effective exploitation and utilization of a nation's natural resources, its physical infrastructure, and its financial capital requires one essential, non-negotiable ingredient.
An efficient, skilled, and committed manpower.
You could be sitting atop the largest discovered reserve of rare earth minerals or have enormous sovereign wealth funds, but if you lack the educated engineers, the ethical and competent managers, and the committed workforce to execute,
To extract it, refine it, and distribute it.
those resources might as well be locked away. You cannot build a modern economy without people who know how to build it.
This leads to what might be the most profound observation in management theory.
That the level of development in a country depends overwhelmingly on the skills, attitudes, and values of its human resources.
Which culminates in the powerful and often harsh realization. Nations are underdeveloped because their people are underdeveloped.
That's a truth that cuts right to the core. It suggests that poverty and underdevelopment aren't just a failure of capital accumulation,
They are fundamentally a failure of human resource management at a national scale.
a failure to nurture skills, to build proactive and positive work attitudes, to provide universal developmental opportunities, and to implement management practices that respect the dignity of labor.
Therefore, the effective and widespread management of human resources helps speed up the process of economic growth across all sectors.
And this sustained growth, in turn, leads directly to higher standards of living for the entire population. It fosters the conditions for fuller and more meaningful employment, and ultimately generates national stability and influence on the global stage.
So when we talk about HRM, we are not just discussing a departmental function within your office. We are analyzing the foundational mechanism that determines whether a corporation thrives strategically, whether an individual finds satisfaction and meaning, and whether a nation can successfully utilize its total potential to achieve prosperity.
It is truly the management of everything.
So we have completed our deep dive into the world of human resource management, defining it not as some back-office clerical duty, but as a challenging, continuous, and interdisciplinary process.
A process of strategically managing a complex social system, and the ambition is incredibly high, achieving individual satisfaction, organizational efficiency, and societal contribution, all at the same time.
We've seen that HRM is pervasive, it's strategic, and it demands both the rigor of science and the necessary creative touch of art.
And most importantly, we've established that its success directly correlates with a nation's ability to utilize its total resources and achieve sustained prosperity.
We also noted that HRM is still a relatively young field, still defining its methodologies against rapid change. So here is the final provocative thought to consider, one that connects this young discipline to the massive external challenges facing us today.
Okay.
If HRM is still evolving, and its core role is to secure organizational competence for the future, how might looming global crises, radical demographic shifts, the need for green workforce transitions, climate migration, the deep disruption caused by automated labor, how might all that further redefine its core responsibilities?
That's a huge question. Will the future of HRM be dominated less by managing internal conflicts and more by managing the volatile external environments in global labor markets that will constantly reshape the available pool of human potential and commitment?
And what new skills must the next generation of managers master to ensure people are not just hired, but sustainably utilized and developed for a highly, highly uncertain future?
A future we can't even fully picture yet.
Something to mull over as you observe the social systems and strategic choices being made in your own working world. That's been the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.